introduce Orville, Baldos, and he's talking about optimizing Heteropogon contortus seed harvest timing through sequential harvesting and characterization of flowering tillers. So thank you, Orville.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about basically developing a protocol for harvesting peely grass or Heteropogon contortus by characterizing the tillers. So just a brief introduction on why we're introducing native species, or we're making producing more native species in Hawaii. Interest has increased in the use of native plants in Hawaii for restoration, landscaping, as well as in roadside revegetation. And in recent years, the Department of Transportation has been increasing the use of native plants in roadsides in order to, because they're basically using it as a strategy for mitigating the invasive, the spread of invasive species, as well as for compliance in the Federal Clean Water Act, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System. Since native plants is non-chemical best management practice for stormwater management. So right now we're developing actually six shrub species, trying to look at the seed production protocols for these 5 shrubs, and then we also have five grass species, and there's been limited information about seed production and seed biology of these species. So there's a need to develop large-scale establishment protocols as well for roadside vegetation. So today I'll be talking about Heteropogon contortus, or speargrass, or peely grass in Hawaiian. Speargrass is a perennial bunch grass that is native to the Hawaiian Islands from sea level up to 700 meters above sea level. It is an ideal roadside vegetation species for dryland areas because it is fire and drought tolerant and can persist in low resource conditions. Culturally, it's important to the native Hawaiians as it has been used for thatching of the traditional huts or hales, and it also has been used in traditional medicine. Ecologically, peely grasslands contain more native species than grasslands of non-native grasses. And in the last decade, it has been increasingly used for ecological restoration, water-efficient landscaping, and stream bank stabilization. So currently, the bottleneck is there's a lack of seed volume for large-scale revegetation projects for this species. So what I did for my dissertation is actually looking at seed harvest timing, seed storage, and then seed dormancy. So this is actually a picture of my dissertation. So today we'll talk about seed harvest timing. So there's none being developed for Heteropogon contortus yet. Timely harvest is essential for this particular grass. As you can see here, if you harvest too early, like the top spikes, you have more immature seed. But if you harvest too late, on the right side, you lose seeds due to shattering. So what harvest timing indicators can be used for optimizing harvest in Heteropogon contortus? Growing degree day units, or growing degree days, have been used in a number of crop and non-crop species, and it considers temperature or heat units accumulated over time during seed development and maturity. GDUs can be calculated by averaging the daily maximum and minimum temperature minus your base temperature. So the base temperature is theoretically where your growth stops. For Heteropogon contortus, it is about 15 degrees Celsius. So if for a given day, if your maximum and minimum temperature is about 15 on average, then you have a GDU of 0, so no growth. So to estimate harvest timing, cumulative growing degree day units are related to seed and spike development. So my methods, so I basically grew seeds of the grass on plugs and then installed them in the field on drip. And then once they established, I harvested about 40 combs or stems per row. Out of those 40 combs, I reserved 30 combs for seed yield, so I measured seed yield in grams. And then the 10 combs was then further studied. So we have total spike per comb for those 10 combs. And out of those total spikes, I divided the number of spikes, the number of intact, the number of shed spikes, and the number of unopened spikes. Out of the intact and shed spikes, so I pulled those together. I randomly collected 10 spikes to measure moisture content, and separated actually extracted the seeds out of those 10 spikes, and then separated those seeds into number of filled seeds, number of empty seeds, and then their weights. So I also had the average dry weight of the seeds, which is basically a measure of your physiological maturity. So I collected data for 2 years and 2 seasons. So I have a spring and a fall harvest. The spring harvest started with the spring equinox, which the grass was cut on March 20th. Waited for 57 to 59 days. After 57 to 59 days, I started harvesting and collecting the tillers, and ended harvest at the summer solstice. So I cut the grass again on June 20. The fall equinox, so the fall season, we started by cutting the grass on September 22nd to the 23rd. Waited again for about 57 to 59 days. Started harvest, and then ended harvest in the winter solstice. So this is a graph showing the cumulative growing degree day units for all of the seasons and all of the years, and it looks similar. So I basically, for ease of analyzing the data, I basically averaged the cumulative growing degree day units across seasons. So the years were 2011 and 2012, and I did analysis of variance and regression analysis, and came up with a predictive equation for harvesting. So here's just a short video of how I did the research. So I have my field here, and I collected basically about 40 tillers or combs per row. The tillers were separated or counted into like 40. So out of those 40 tillers, I basically harvested each of the spikes, and the spikes were separated into the number of intact, the number of unopened, and the number of shed spikes. Then after each harvest season, I basically cut the whole field. So the results indicate that average cumulative growing degree day units can be used as an estimate for seed harvest timing. It is consistent in 3 of the 4 cropping cycles, and was observed in seed yield of 30 combs, field seed number of 10 spikes, total weight and number of seeds for 10 spikes, and the average weight of individual seeds. The optimum range wherein you can harvest is about 768 to 778 ACGDUs, or about 79 to 82 days after cutting. And this actually coincided also with a spike moisture content ranging from 0.68 to 0.72 grams of water per dry weight, or about 68 to 72% moisture. And actually it also corresponded with a visual cue, which is seed head tangling. So here are 2 graphs. So the one on top is seed yield of 30 combs, and I have seed yield, spring 2011 is on top, fall 2011 is the next, spring 2012 is the third one, and then the bottom one is fall 2012. And the next graph below is spike moisture content, and I have spring again, the spring 2012 on top, fall 2011, the second one from the top, fall 2012, and then spring 2012. So the blue line here indicates that optimum growing degree day units where you can harvest. So you can see the seed yield in spring 2011 and fall 2011 and spring 2012 seems to fall on that area. And when you extend that to seed moisture content, everything actually like intersects in all of the, like in the seasons, they have more or less a narrow range of moisture content. So the visual cue is like this. So I have photos of the field every 3 days, and the closest visual cue would be this. So this is about 755.2 CGDU, or about 75 grams water dry weight. So if your field looks like this, then the field is basically ready for harvesting the seed. So aside from determining a optimum harvest timing, I also observed a decline in the productivity of the stand over cropping seasons. This is evident in the seed yield, as well as the total number of spikes per cum. So this again is the y-axis is seeds harvested from 30 cums of grams, and then the x-axis is the average cumulative growing degree day units. So from top to bottom, of the topmost curve to the bottommost curve is actually increasing in time. So you have the highest seed yield in spring 2011, and then as you go down, or as you have successive seasons of harvesting, your yield basically drops off or flattens out. This is also evident in the number of spikes per cum. So spring 2011 had high number of spikes produced, and then it flattens out as the stand basically ages. So there might be a couple of factors that actually affect the drop in productivity. This might be due to stand age, cutting height, or thatch accumulation. Because I didn't really remove the thatch, I just cut the grass and just let the thatch over there accumulate over time. And I also saw some increased pest incidents, but I didn't really collect any numerical data on it. So these factors may explain the decline, but further studies are recommended to try to figure out which specific factor affected the drop in productivity. So in summary, harvest timing, so for Heteropogon contortus, the optimum harvest timing is about 768 to 778 ACGDUs, or average cumulative growing degree day units. This corresponds to about 79 to 82 days after cutting the grass. If you want a more precise measure to determine a optimum harvest, you can measure the spike moisture content. So the spike moisture content should be around 0.68 to 0.72 grams water, dry weight basis. So this is about 68% to 72% moisture, dry weight basis. But if you don't have like a weighing scale or an oven, you can also use visual cue, which is tangling of the seed head. So if the seed heads are tangled like that, heavily tangled, then you're ready to harvest your seed. Another important finding in this research is that successive cropping reduces yield. So there might be factors that are affecting this productivity of the grass over time. So I'd like to thank people from the Magoon Research Facility, the Tropical Forestry and Agroforestry Lab, NRCS Plant Materials Center, who provided the materials for our research, Chris Dacus, who actually initiated this research when he was still part of the Hawaii Department of Transportation. So this research is funded by the State of Hawaii Department of Transportation. So if you have any questions, let me know. For more information about my research, you can email me, visit my website, and you can view this lecture as well as my other lectures in my YouTube channel. Thank you.
Time for questions. usage or production would you need in Hawaii to meet the need of this particular species? I mean, by acres or pounds, or how big areas need to be revegetated?
A lot of areas. Actually, I've been getting calls like from last year, like people looking for seeds, but I can't give them seeds. Yeah, we don't have that amount of seed to produce. They're looking for, like, I guess, probably hundreds of pounds of seeds for vegetation. So.
Question? Did you replicate this study in different elevational zones, given that Pili is such a wide elevation, and it also grows across the state? So do you think there would be any difference in elevation from what island you took it in your results?
Mm-hmm. That might be an interesting research study. I didn't do any location trials, but yeah, that would be interesting to see. So we could see if it's possible to use this in different sorts of environments. Yes. Any more questions?
Once you notice that it's declining, and what do you put in the location where you're doing your research? Do you do anything afterward, or just kind of?
With the production, like what would I do if? Because right now, actually the stand is still there.
Oh.
We've just been cutting it, but no, I'm not collecting any data anymore. But it's still there. But it's kind of growing a little shorter than it used to be. So I think it would be nice to burn it, but we have restrictions in burning. So maybe an alternative to burning would be to remove, like when I cut the grass, then I need to remove the organic matter.
So is this something commercially feasible? I mean, do you have growers there that might be willing to take this on? What type of price per pound? And
currently, there's only one person growing this grass. And one difficult thing about this grass is cleaning. I'm having a hard time cleaning it. I'm just doing it by hand, basically. The NRCS has been able to, I guess, harvest it with a big harvester, seed harvester, but the cons keep clogging the system. So I don't have any idea right now, like in terms of like price, but it's probably going to be expensive since the supply is limited.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Orville. Those were great slides and good questions to go with that. So thank you.